Hello and welcome to the Avanti Women and Panasonic speaker series. Today I'm here talking to Anita Heidema, who we're going to talk about empowerment and travel. Very excited to have you here today as one of our members for Avanti Women. We want to hear all about you. What's your story? How you got to this international acclaimed association in India that you just recently did. So why don't you give us a few highlights? We'd love to know more about who you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me too. It's wonderful. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, I call myself a mindset coach and business strategist for entrepreneurs. So that's sort of the encompassing of what I do. And being a hypnotherapist and a trained coach, I work with mindset and where people are going with their lives and being able to build that auto success mindset. So that's huge. And then business strategist, I talk about my business academy. It's my AHA Academy because everything's about AHA moments.
Love it.
I do, right? Because that's where we really learn. We're actually engrossed in something and we hit that sort of, we realize that we need to do something. This is it, right? So I tie that in, and that's how I've developed avantiwomen.com, Anita Heidema International. And through some of my online programs that are available through Anita Heidema International, I've gone to this international status, and clients are buying it from all over the world, which is really exciting. So I'm empowering entrepreneurs from all over. Yeah.
Excellent. So our theme this month is about travel and empowerment. And so we'd love to hear more about how you empower other women as well through your coaching and through your business, and how you learned that through travel. So we'd love to hear that recipe for success there for you.
Well, with coaching, I was in the corporate world and I was moving up the corporate ladder, and they had hired me a coach. And at the time, this is 10 years ago, and I thought to myself, I'm not playing baseball or basketball. Coaching wasn't even a thing that I knew anything about. And then I thought it was therapy, and it was a crazy thing. But once I was hired a coach and I went through that transitional period, I realized how powerful it was. So I trained myself to be a coach. And at the time, I still wasn't even thinking of having a business. It was about starting a business. It was about empowering the team that I had, because I had a national role at the time in the company. So I was dealing with a lot of the other sales reps and that. So when I trained myself as coaching, but I always had this passion for travel. And I just could tell when you travel, you open yourself up to self-discovery, right?
True.
You look at things in a different light when you don't live in that little bubble that you're used to in your everyday situation. So the world is your oyster, right? And you look at all these different things differently. And then I started my retreats, and I started, like, the first one was Greece, and then I did Costa Rica. There's different ones that I have done. And then what happens is you come back after you do your goal setting, and you open yourself and you think, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. This is what I'm going to do with my business. This is where I'm going to go. And you come home and it's reality time, right? Because you start to get back in your old ways, and you start forgetting, that experience and that feeling that you had when you traveled.
Right.
So then I coach my clients to keep on track with those thoughts and that mindset.
Great.
That they have.
So in terms of, so I like how you keep track with your clients. I think that's really important. And it sounds like you have some type of a program, something that you offer around women and women empowerment, and maybe resources for women to encourage them that through travel there's more self-discovery. Maybe you can share some of the tips and tricks that you did during that process that can maybe inspire some of our members.
Okay. Well, the big thing I would say, like when I started, I have meditation CDs that help you tap into your intuition. So these are free things that I have online, goal setting templates and different things that I have, resources that they can use at avantiwomen.com. And then I developed my first program, the 21-Day Journey to Success. And it's an online program that you build those habits over 21 days. And that's what happened. It's like brushing your teeth. And once you develop those positive habits, you can move forward in your life and be able to, it just becomes ingrained in you. Like I said, like brushing your teeth, right? It just becomes natural. And those are the success steps to be able to get to different places. And then what happens is then I take that to the travel portion of it. So there's different programs that are online. I've got Mind Your Business class as well that's available through my program. And again, it's all around mindset. It starts with mindset and understanding that there's so much power in your head, right? I'm a hypnotherapist as well, so a lot of my stuff ties around that and how to develop that positive attitude on a daily basis. So when you're looking at a situation, you look at the glass half full.
Right.
I mean, there's many situations that have happened to me that I'm just sitting there totally in the dump thinking, this can't be happening. And then looking from a different perspective and how you get yourself out of that situation. That's what it's all about. And that's what my programs do, and get you to thinking in that positive. So when you're in that fork in the road, what way to go. And then for entrepreneurs, I also have an academy that takes you into the actual business strategies, like how to build a business plan, sales, marketing, because that's so important as well.
Absolutely. And through your travels and through your corporate life, did you have a mentor? Was there someone there that helped you, that guided you? You know, give us some insights to how you got to where you are today.
I've had various mentors over the time period, and I think they were all in the stages of my life that I really kind of needed them. They sort of came into my life at the time. You know, the coach that I had, it opened up a whole new world in my corporate that brought me through. You know, when I started my own business, it was quite a transition because I had been in management and, you know, I had a lot of things that were done for me. You know, I had a secretary, marketing department, IT department, and I understood the mindset and the changes and the transformation that's needed to be an entrepreneur and what you need to do and to target and focus on those right things, right? So I've got to say there's been quite a few mentors that I've had over the time, and they've come to me. You know, what do they say? The teacher comes, or when you need the teacher comes. I forget the phrase.
It's about timing,
right? Yeah.
So.
And that's what kind of worked through it. And it's interesting how that sort of happened in time. And I hope to be able to do that for other people, you know, that are either starting their business or they're wanting to grow their business to 6 figures beyond or whatever that is, or looking at being an entrepreneur, what that is. You know, I hope to be that resource for them at that time as well.
That would be great. We could leverage you with Avanti Women for sure. We have lots of women and entrepreneurs who are contacting us and want to grow that business.
Yeah.
So I think you'd be a great mentor for us as well. But more importantly, I'd like to know more a little bit about how you wrote your book and how you got the idea. And you know, I really like the title. Maybe you can share a little bit about the idea, the brainchild before, you know, how that came about, and share this as a resource, because we're always looking for resources for women. So let's share this and maybe some other resources you might have that you'd like to share with us.
Okay. Well, Vitality Knocks, when I first, you know, when you build a business, you build your avatar, your target market, right? So I drew this little stick woman, and her name was Vitality, because I knew that it wasn't really therapy. I was for those women that knew they wanted more in life and where that's supposed to go, and I was guiding them. So her name was Vitality. And a lot of my ideas come to me at night. It's the strangest thing. I get up at 3 in the morning, and all of a sudden I'm writing things down and everything. And so this idea came to come up with a book that's a story about a girl named Vitality and her life lessons. So as she's going through, so maybe when she hadn't listened to her instincts, that's one of the chapters. And how she hadn't, and then all of a sudden she had that realization that she should have done it. So you're supposed to read 1 chapter a night. So it's sort of a fictional self-help book. So you read 1 chapter a night, and then you think about when maybe, and intuition is that chapter, you would think about maybe when you hadn't listened to your instincts and you hadn't trusted your gut feeling and what that is. And then you sleep on it. And a lot of times you get up at night, or you get up in the morning, and thoughts will come to your mind, and that's what the book does for you. So it's sort of a fictional self-help book. They're short stories, so they're very small, but you're supposed to read 1 chapter a night and work through that. So that's why it's called Vitality Knocks. So it's the knocks on your door that you might have missed.
I love it.
So, you know, I came up with the idea. I never thought of myself as an author, really. It's kind of interesting how it just sort of comes to you, and I love the process. And I finished it off because I did a trip to the Camino. So I went down to the Camino Trail, and I wanted to get the experience from that so I could write the last chapter, and that's what I did. And then it became Amazon bestseller a few months later. So it was really a great feeling, you know.
Congratulations.
And in a few months I'm looking at writing the next one. So
great.
Vitality's newest experience.
Okay, we're looking forward to it. That would be great. So we talk about the book. I love how we do the chapter a night, and I think that's great because as women have to reflect and get empowered, I mean, yes, it could be also expensive to travel. So when you look at your experience over the years, you know, how did you get to those destinations, you know, when you go through different stages in your life where maybe money's not so plentiful? Yeah. Was there a plan there for you, or were you able to get people to sponsor you?
No, you know, and it was actually a very, very scary situation because my story is I went from, you know, 6 figures to 0, and that's what happened. I had 2 mortgages, I had no income, and it was at a point where I realized what you're made of, right? Because I had the 2 kids to figure out, and I was just being resourceful in what I could. There is one organization. There was the York Region Women's Center, and I was looking at the newspaper, and I noticed that they had this entrepreneur program that you could join, right? And it was by membership only, and there's only a few people that they took and whatever. So I did go through that program, which was kind of interesting.
Good.
But it was such a transition to go from corporate to that. And so my message would be is to really, trust your instincts and just to go for what that is. So once I started listening to myself, and you had that push comes a shove, I wasn't treating my business as a hobby. I had to make it happen, right? I had to make that happen because I was on my own, supporting the kids, 2 mortgages, you just have to do it, right?
Yes.
So with the passion and what I had for what I wanted to do and to help women entrepreneurs, and it was interesting because I went from a totally male industry to a female industry. It was a real transition too, but, it was interesting how, you can really do that. And when you put your mind to something and you really focus on that you can make it happen. And I have those 3 pillars to success, which is I talk about root success, which is really what resonates. And when you do something that really resonates with you and right? You get that feeling when you just know and you just go forward with it.
Yep.
That's the root of success.
Like it.
And then focusing on things, focusing on the right things and going for that and looking at the positive in the situation. Because every time you look at something, and I can go on about situations that have happened with me, and I'm sure everyone in here could do that exact same thing, of times when you could look at things in different ways, and all of a sudden you've transferred something that was a negative into a positive, and how incredible that is.
Yeah, and I find that empowering because it's a lesson learned. So now you have a list of what you can do and what you can't do and what you won't do again. So I really like what you're saying there.
And you learn as you go through, and that's why I always talk about, I have my master coach, I've got my travel, I've got the TICO, I've got, hypnotherapy, I've got so many things, but to me it's still life's university that is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It really is, because it hits you here, and that's what's so important, because you've learned that lesson and you've been able to grow from it.
Yeah, and I love your story about that transition from corporate to entrepreneur and how, you've learned. What were some of the skills that you really had to maybe focus on and make those pillars of success? What were you've had to give me 3 skills to help you do that transition successfully?
Yeah.
What would you tell other women? These are the 3 things you should really try to focus on to help you build where you need to go.
Well, I found, because for myself being in management, that I was babysat a lot, right? So I did have someone that could, write my work for me, do my charts and all of that kind of stuff. So that was a learning curve for me on that end. Like, I would get a boardroom together and I'd have an idea and I'd do a SWOT analysis and I'd say, this is how we're doing it, and I'd direct everyone in how that was done. But it was the inner work that needed to be done, understanding how to reach a target market, the social media on a different aspect, those kind of things. And now that I've gotten to a different level in my business, I realize where my strengths are and where my strengths aren't. And what I've done is I've hired people in those areas.
Excellent.
That have taken up extra time for me, that don't, that's not resonating with me and who I am and where my strengths are. So I think it's learning those things that you need to. And that's why my AHA Academy is important, because it's a program and it starts in December again for the next year. And every week we go through not only the mindset, but the business strategy to get there. And I bring experts on that talk about the different areas that I might not have as much expertise on. But it brings that package together that you'll be able to learn the specifics, so you can direct someone to do that eventually when you have enough money to be able to move forward and your business starts to grow, or be able to direct it yourself, right?
Yes.
So,
Good point.
Yeah.
So if you had to reflect back and look, back to maybe when you're in your 20s, which wasn't too far ago.
Oh, yeah, right.
And you had to give yourself some advice. What was that advice that Anita would give herself today if she was 20 again?
Yeah. It's interesting because, there's some, if you look at my life story, there's been tragedies and things that have happened, but they've brought me to where I am now. So it's been difficult, and I think that probably the biggest thing was to go for what my instinct tells me to do. Because a lot of times we get caught up in the things we need to do, what people tell us to do, right? And that fear comes up and what we could be doing. I'm thinking, if I started this business so many years ago, how much more of an impact I would have been able to make, right? To be able to do. I just on Friday I accepted this position as chair for the organization in India for global for entrepreneurial growth. I don't know if I mentioned that to you already, but it's kind of interesting how if I would have started this so much sooner, and trusted some of my instincts, where things would have gone. And,
yes.
And everyone has their message, and everyone has their expertise to bring out.
Right.
And whatever that might be, and everyone is different in how to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And through those transitions and through those learnings and through those areas where you should have really focused on those instincts, was there a special person in your life, a woman that maybe was a role model? Was there someone that comes to mind that stood out to you as a
each stage of my life, there's been somebody that's sort of come in, but there's not anyone specific. I've always been very close to my parents. My mom was a big role model for me in many ways.
Nice.
She was very independent and kind of, did things on her own. So I'd probably say, that she was a huge impact for me and what happened and what went forward and stuff. But it was interesting because it really was specific to times in my life and periods and that. So. And a lot of people were always thinking when I did something that I was crazy.
Yeah. Well,
you can't do that.
I think we have
Who says you can't do that?
Yeah, I think to be an entrepreneur, you have to be crazy because there's a risk associated with it. So, so if there, mom was a role model. I get that. Mine was too. What about a superhero? Was there a superhero that you maybe sometimes had to role play or get into that,
I
fake
used
it till
to
you make it
love
type thing?
Wonder Woman. Oh my gosh, I loved Wonder Woman.
Yes, I know.
I used to, and
I got the cuffs.
Yeah, whenever I actually put a group together that was the entrepreneurs, and I called us the Wonder Woman, right? I just there was something about her and how she was reacting, and she could deflect things. And,
yes.
And even as a teenager, I used to the spin and pretending there was that transformation,
Awesome.
and I think she was quite neat as far as the superheroes go.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many wonderful people out there. Oprah was a wonderful spokesperson out there. I think that to follow her and many things that she's done.
Very nice.
Brené Brown. I mean, there's just so many wonderful
resources.
People out there that talk their, walk their talk sort of thing. Right?
That's actually very important. So let's talk about that, walking the talk. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the highlights for that for you? What are some of the, non-negotiables for Anita to say, I got to walk the talk when it comes to my business around, traveling and empowerment and successful travel. And, with all your experiences comes this great success. So, how are you going to apply what you're preaching?
Yeah.
And how are you doing it?
Well, it's growing the business to where it is. It's making that statement and actually follow through with it, right? There's a lot of times, we say and we don't actually act on a lot of those things, and it's keeping that integrity. That's so important as well, to be able to follow through what you're going to say you're going to do and empower people, right? So it's again walking the talk and what you say, follow through with it.
Very hard.
What you're going to do.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's good. So one other thing I wanted to know is also, your story. We don't have a lot of history around, your accolades and how you got to where you're today. Mm-hmm. We understand you came from a corporate background. You are the successful entrepreneur now. Could you maybe walk us through the last year on how you became more international as well?
Okay, the last year, yeah. It's just been a growth in where I wanted to go. So originally when I first started, I knew I wanted to tie in travel with coaching. And I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching at that time. And my mom was quite ill. And she unfortunately passed within this time. But I was being pulled in different directions. And I needed to be there for my mom. And again, that's so important to me. I needed to be there, right? And my daughter needs some extra time as well. And so to be able to keep the business going, I had to do, you have to be quick on your feet and turn in negatives into positive. And so I ended up doing a lot more of an online type program system so that people can get my resources online. They can work through my programs from the start or beginning portion of it to get the experience that I have and what I've been able to bring forward and how I've been able to become more successful in what I'm doing and being able to apply that and allow them to work through what that is on an online basis. Mm-hmm. So, and then if they want to have more time, there's still that as well to be able to put in there. But I was able to build it as more, and so that has given me the chance that all of a sudden, I had this North American reach, which was incredible. So everyone around the States and Canada were purchasing, and now I have this global reach. I have people from all over the world that are tying into my programs, listening to my Ask Anitas, and taking the resources that I have to be able to help them. And it's such a great feeling, when you're able to help people and you can see the successes in their business and then moving forward and feeling like leaders themselves, right? And I always talk about that business that's the hobby business, right? There's so many people that sign up or they say, I have a business, and they're not really doing what they feel like they should be doing, and they're not carrying it to that extent. So it's when you actually see them being that leader and carrying their business as best they can and being successful with it.
Yeah, so where does Anita get her resources? Like, if they're not on your website, where are you finding them? So, women can find the starting point to either starting their business or getting inspired to travel.
Yeah. Well, a lot of my stuff is instinct that I come up with, and it's just through life's lessons that I've come up with these programs and these ideas. But the best thing for people to do is, you sign on to my Mind Your Business class, right, which is the beginning of my programs, or your 21-day Journey to Success online program. and be able to work through those first steps of what that is to get that mindset and how to get there. And then you can work through the programs to get your own resources. If you go on my website, there's a lot of free resources that are available there as well, and webinars. So you can be able to, pull from a lot of that stuff to start your business. Because I not only work with clients that are close to the six-figure, how do you get there? What do you do with that? But also people that are wanting to create a business and they're wanting to move forward. I remember 20 years ago reading the Popcorn Report, and it was Faith Popcorn. It was interesting how she talked about how society's going to change and we're going to working from home. Mm-hmm. And I remember at the time thinking, that's crazy. Yeah. And now that's what people are doing. Yeah. There's so many entrepreneurs out there realizing that you can run your own show and be able to do your own thing, right? And be successful at it. If that's what resonates with you. Not everyone wants to be, but that's the thing.
Yeah, I get that. How would you define empowerment? You talk about doing some successful coaching, you're traveling. Our theme this month is about travel and empowerment. Let's start with the definition.
Mm-hmm. Empowerment to me is when you help somebody to be able to have that inner feeling of success and that inner feeling of being able to get up every morning and seeing the brightness in the day, right? When you're empowered, you will bring things forward and those things that resonate with you and to be able to follow through with your goals instead of coming up with excuses or having fears that are going to be able to do that. So when you're empowered, that's how you're going to carry through. So I find with travel, it's a huge empowerment for people, because when you travel, you open yourself up to self-discovery, right? Yes. You realize that you don't live in this little bubble and there's so much more to life. And when you go back to that feeling of traveling the world and experiencing these new cultures and these new people and what that has to offer, you develop that sense of more strength within you.
Absolutely.
So to me, when you travel, you open yourself up to so much more, and you open yourself up to have that inner self-worth and empowerment, right? So it's for me, I feel helping to empower people with that is giving them that so that they're able to do that on their own, right?
Very good.
And of course, when you follow me on social media, I'm constantly sending out a quote here and there, and that stuff resonates with you, but you need to actually feel this inside. And some of my meditation programs that I have online, it talks about that, how to bring in the intuition, how to bring in abundance, and it talks about the
mindset.
The mindset, but being a hypnotherapist, I've program them around that, right, to help you to automatically have that success mindset, right? Okay. Yeah.
So in terms of your most favorite place in the world to visit, let's hear about your travel and what your top place was. If you could go back again or recommend where to go, where would you tell us to go?
Oh my gosh, I love so many
places.
Just
pick one.
So many.
Pick two.
I loved Costa Rica. Okay. Costa Rica was gorgeous.
Hot place now.
Yeah. It was really nice, and we did zip lining, we did horseback riding, and it was beautiful. I mean, Greece was incredible just for the cultures and the water.
Nice.
And some of the Greek mythology and the different stories behind that. It was pretty incredible.
Good.
The Camino Trail was quite an experience, and for that, it was more around. Because usually what I'll do is I'll have everybody tour around. You open yourself up, and then I'll do a little bit of workshops. Like in Greece, we did on the beach, right? So everyone's relaxed. They just write out what they're really, resonating with and what they want to do, and it just sort of opens you up, and you experience and say different things that you normally wouldn't, right? But the Camino was really the journey along the way. So everyone kind of had their thought and what that was. So it wasn't as contrived, but it was such an interesting experience to the people that you meet, on the Camino, and the feelings that you get, and it was just an incredible experience as well. But,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up our speaker series, we'd love to know what your recipe of success was. If you had to share with other women how they could leverage travel to empower them to get to success, or whatever they want to be doing, what was your recipe of success? Please tell us. Please tell us.
It's really interesting how you put it all together. But the biggest thing is to have that passion for what you do. Okay. Really, and once you have that passion, it just sort of resonates from you, and trusting that instinct and what that is.
Very good.
But then you also have to, and that's why a lot of my programs talk about mindset and strategies. You have to have those strategies in place that's going to be able to get you there, because you have that big dream, and that passion is going to drive you, definitely. But you need to know how that's going to. So a business plan is important to be able to carry that through and be able to do it. And the travel is the inspiration that comes from it,
right?
And being able to organize those groups and however you want to do that, and what that's going to be. I've done a few local retreats too, because again, some people, they don't have the money to do the grandiose things, right? Even though the experience is so much greater, it's still that getaway, because my line is getaway to find your way, right? So it's getting yourself out of that everyday environment to be able to open yourself up and to write those things down and to really experience and be empowered for what you want and what your passions are.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And we appreciate you coming out to share with us your recipe of success. Please follow us at #AW Recipe for Success. And please send us your questions. And again, we thank you for your time, Anita.
Thank you.